On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, Bob Huggins has resigned as the head coach of West Virginia. Got a DUI on Friday night, and the details of the police report are grim, to say the least. When the story broke Saturday, it felt like that was even a guy like me who is cynical and says, you know, like the last time we heard from Bob Huggins, he was tossing around slurs on live radio in May. And I thought to myself, there's a world in which he survives this because it's college sports, and that's how this shit seems to work more often than not. Seeing that on Saturday, there was only one logical conclusion. It was Bob Huggins no longer being the head coach of West Virginia, and that is where we have arrived. And just a sad, I mean, no other way to say it. It's sad. A sad ending to a legendary basketball career, and we'll talk about it a little bit, but we'll also need to talk about where does West Virginia go from here. They were looking to have a pretty decent team this year. What happens to those transfers that they brought in? Are we too late in the calendar to hire someone as the permanent guy moving forward for the future, the long-term answer? Are they going to go interim? Suddenly, we did some massive college basketball news pops up in late June with Bob Huggins' situation. Also, Bradley Beal traded to the Suns for Chris Paul and Landry Shamet. Is this the move that will finally get Kevin Durant a championship, is what people are asking. Will Kevin Durant finally win his first ever NBA championship with Bradley Beal and Devin Booker as teammates? We'll have to find out next year. Chris Paul already doing the woe is me media tour bullshit. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on here, but this man going to New York Times, and like you saw Chris Paul talking not too long ago about how his kids are getting bullied in school because the other students are making fun of their dad, you know, in school. And I read that and I was like, yeah, that's called being in junior high and high school, dude. Like that's par for the course. Everyone's dad gets made fun of. Like, I don't understand. And now from the artist who brought you that comes the New York Times article where he pretends to be blindsided even though he's been trade fodder for a while now. And I don't understand how you can be 38 years old and be in this league for so long and pretend like the Phoenix Suns trading you is a shocking turn of events, but here we are. So there it is. Are the Suns better now? Are the Suns... I don't know. I'll talk through my thoughts with that. Also, Wyndham Clark won the U.S. Open, and I ended up going. I went to practice on last Tuesday and talked about it on the show, obviously. And then I thought I wasn't going to go to the U.S. Open, but some tickets magically appeared in front of me. I decided to go on Friday. I have some thoughts. People were killing this U.S. Open, man. I mean, people are saying this is the worst U.S. Open they've ever seen. I think a lot of it is fair. But some of the criticism that this U.S. Open has taken has put me in the disgusting position of having to defend the Los Angeles Country Club and Los Angeles in general. So I don't know. I took notes. I wrote some stuff down because I watched on Thursday. I was not happy. The course was getting torn up by Xander Schauffele and Ricky Fowler, and I was like, this is not the U.S. Open. So I went on Friday and I don't know. I had some thoughts. I'll talk through that a little bit. Might do a mailbag too at the end of the show. Got some stuff that I was supposed to get to last show that we did not get to, but we'll read through some of those. Sam Vecini, by the way, is coming on the show on Thursday for the draft. We'll put that out early Thursday morning so everybody can listen to it before the draft. We already talked to him. We had a long conversation. Did a very long draft preview, and he's the best. And yeah, I know I promised that to the people last week. We didn't forget about that. We're just going to put it out on Thursday because this Bob Huggins thing popped up, and I want to spend some time talking about that. And I wanted to give Sam also at the same time a ton of time to talk through all these prospects. So the NBA draft preview will be Thursday morning. For now, we're going to talk about some of the stuff that I just mentioned. All that coming up today. All right, we'll start with Bob Huggins resigning following the DUI on Friday. Details for those who didn't see it. Not good. Not as far as DUIs go. This was even if you're a DUI apologist, which I can't imagine there are too many out there, and if you are, I think that's another way of saying you're a scumbag. But even if you wanted to live in a world where there's like a gray area, and I don't even know why I'm entertaining this, but I don't know. There's some people out there that are like, well, you know, maybe he didn't know, maybe he did, and then you read the police report, TJ, and this man blew a .21. This man, not a .021, a .210. A .210 is what this man blew, which is bonkers. In fact, as I'm reading that back right now, I don't even believe that to be true, which is why I'm going to Look it up right now.
I believe you have it. It's 0.2, which is 2.5 times the legal limit, I think. So in the can.
Dude, I wrote this down. I saw it. I wrote it down. And as I'm reading it back, I'm like, I definitely typed that wrong. There's no way that it's 0.21, but it is 0.21. Empty beer cans and bottles in his car. He was also pulled over at 8:30 p.m. It was still light outside. He told police that he believed to be in Columbus, Ohio. They asked him 10 different times where he was. He could not answer one time. He was in Pittsburgh, by the way. He was not in Columbus, Ohio. He wasn't even in the state of Ohio. He was in Pittsburgh. Just an all around. I mean, there's no other way to slice it. It's a horrendous situation. It's very, very bad, and it's the kind of thing that you see and you're like, yeah, he has to be done, and hopefully he does the right thing and resigns, and he did, and he's taking the responsibility moving forward, or he's like, putting out the same statements. But we were just here in May where he was like, I'm going to be a better man, and I'm going to do all this sort of thing better, and my mind goes to, like, on the one hand, yes, it is sad, and we can talk about that a little bit, and like the an absolute legend of the game to go out like this is embarrassing and horrifying and all that sort of thing. But then it's all self-inflicted too, so it's also like, I don't want to, maybe it doesn't really serve anybody well for me to pile on, but I can't get myself to get all the way there where I'm like, this is a tragedy, because it's like nobody did this to Bob Huggins. He kind of did it to himself, and he kept doing it to himself. And it's a very conflicting thing, because anytime you have a situation like this where it's a guy who means so much to his university and so much to his players and so much to there's so many good things you could say about Bob Huggins, and many people have since he's resigned over the weekend. I mean, there are a lot of people that know him best that are stepping up and are like, this is the guy I know is XYZ, and other people are like, listen, in the last month or in change, this man has revealed himself to be not exactly the greatest dude on earth. It's very complex. I think there's a world where everybody is right, and that's how humanity seems to work, is like, if you look at someone at their worst moments, they are a completely different person than, at different times. But this is, it's just an unfortunate reminder that, like, these guys in college sports don't always get to go out the way they want. And to see that's where my mind goes. It's like, it's just a bummer. I don't know if it's sad, but it's just it's just like, for Bob Huggins so many people to be campaigning so hard for him to be in the Hall of Fame for so long. Like, that was the thing. Every time West Virginia was playing a game, or Cincinnati or Kansas State, wherever the hell he was, Dickie V's losing his mind. Like, why is this man not in the Hall of Fame? And other commentators are getting on board with it too. And Fran Fraschilla is calling West Virginia games like 6 years ago, and he's like, I can't believe Bob Huggins is in the Hall. And that was kind of like the thing, is we all wanted to see Bob Huggins make the Hall of Fame. We felt like he deserved it. He didn't win a national title, but he was a guy who was very, very likable to people, because he was so gregarious and such a fun interview, and dressed like a goofball, and he just had like he had an infectious personality. So I think people were rooting for him to get the Hall of Fame for that reason. But then also he as of before this weekend happened, he's the all-time active winningest coach. He had 934 career wins. The dude's just stacking up wins left and right. He kind of revolutionized college basketball. Like, him and Jerry Tarkanian, going back to like the 80s and early 90s, when Tarkanian was doing it at UNLV, but Huggy Bear was doing it at Cincinnati, where you're kind of and this is the reason a lot of people love the guy and will still root for him in spite of what we've seen in the last couple months. He would take guys that no other program would touch. He would take the JUCO guys. He would take the guys who were quote unquote thugs. He would take like the like those types of players that other college basketball programs were like, that is, you're inviting chaos into your program. And Bob Huggins was like, I see the good in these players. I also think they're not only are they good people, but they're going to be good players for me. And he kind of went that path. And so when you looked at the Bob Huggins career arc, yeah, he wasn't ripping off Final Fours and national championships, but he was also like doing it a different way, where it felt like, like it was, he was you could say he was like artificially handcuffing his abilities to win national championships, but he just kind of saw his own vision and did carved out his programs his own way. Of course, in 2000 they have the awesome team with Kenyon Martin in Cincinnati, and Kenyon Martin gets hurt, and that's kind of the big what if in the Huggy Bear career arc. But for him to get to the point he got at West Virginia, and as of a few years ago gets put in the Hall of Fame finally, and there's just this big celebration, and like he had positioned himself in a world where Coach K is retired and Roy Williams is retired and Jim Boeheim is retired, where he is kind of the father figure of college basketball in some ways. It doesn't fully work that way. Like there's some people that are like, I've never liked him, I don't care, and like other people tell you he never won enough to like really fully speak for all of college basketball as a whole. But I will tell you this, all the times I've seen Bob Huggins at college basketball events, at basketball events in general, when that man walks into a room, he's just the gravity that he has, and the way he sucks everyone to him just naturally, because everybody wants to be in his presence and everybody wanted to talk to him. That was who he was, and that's why like this is ultimately such a big bummer, is because he would put himself in a position to be that guy for college basketball, and just kind of be that father figure. And now here we sit today, like just shaking our head like, what the hell, Bob? Like that's just kind of how I feel. It's like, it is sad in some ways, but like sad's not quite right, because like Huggins brought it on himself. It's just a situation that sucks, which ultimately doesn't really help anything. And I don't know how many people are like tuning into the podcast, like wanting to hear my take that like that they're going to walk away and be like, damn, I didn't think about it that way. As it turns out, I don't really have like a unique take on this, other than just like, this fucking sucks. I hate this. I hate that a guy that was supposed to be beloved and was supposed to be a guy we rooted for, and a guy who was so close to the end of his career anyway and could have gone out on his own terms. He could have. All of it is self-inflicted. All of it is so easily avoidable, and for that reason, it sucks. It sucks.
Do you think that this is the actual end of his career? I know like plenty of coaches go through dark stuff or bad stuff and end up working their way back up. Do you think this is actually?
I think it
is.
Like, yeah, I think it is. I think it is. I think he was close to retiring anyway. I think there's a world where this was going to be his last year at West Virginia anyway, because I think he was. This is not me having sources. This is just me like reading. Yeah. The situation here. I think Huggins had gotten to a point where he was probably ready to step down, like all these older dudes are getting. But he wanted the program to be in a good standing. West Virginia had a couple they're not horrendous. It's not like the bottom's falling out like Louisville situation or anything, but it was just like a little rot. Like it was like, suddenly like this West Virginia basketball program that we thought was one of the better programs in the country is like not that great. And I think my thought was like he was probably trying to just get the program back on track and then hand it off to the next guy. Which this year, that's what I felt like this year's team could have done that. I mean, they were about 500 last year, if I remember right. They get the 9 or the 8 seed. They played Maryland in the first round of the tournament. I forget who was who. It was a good game, first game of the tournament. I remember West Virginia was up and Maryland came back and won. But they had a decent year this year, and I think that this next coming season, not that they were going to win a national championship, but I think there was some high hopes around Morgantown about this group that they had brought in, and that was my read on it. It was like he was going to have a good year this year, go to back-to-back tournaments, and then pass it off to the next guy. And instead, here we are talking about the multiple scandals that he's had in the offseason, and I don't know. It sucks. It's a bummer. It's that's the only way I can describe it. It sucks because he is like It also sucks when you just can't put people in boxes, because I do think that there is, like, if you're someone who knows Huggins well, or you're like a player and you're coming out publicly and you're saying like, this guy is, I'm not letting his worst moments define who he is. I still think he was an incredible coach. He changed my life. He changed whatever. That's very, very valid, and I think that matters when you're doing the calculus on like who Bob Huggins is, and like what his legacy should be. I think that shit matters, and I saw the clip of Deshaun Butler when he tore his ACL in the 2010 Final Fours making the rounds, and people were showing Bob Huggins getting on his hands and knees and consoling Deshaun Butler, and one of the cooler moments in NCAA tournament history. That stuff does matter, But also at the same time, if your viewpoint is like, listen, I'm someone who lost a loved one, or because of DUIs, or I'm someone who is gay or knows somebody who's gay, or like loves somebody who's gay, like, which is basically most of us, and that shit doesn't fly with me. Him tossing around slurs like that. So like, I don't give a fuck what this guy did for all these other people. Like, that is inexcusable. I think that viewpoint is also valid, and I think like that's the messy part of all of this, is that you can't just put people in one box. And I think all of our monkey brains just want to put people, you just want to be like, he's a good guy, he's a bad guy. And unfortunately, you get reminders like this, like, it doesn't work that way. Because if you would have polled college basketball people and asked them like, who are the most likable coaches in college basketball, if Bob Huggins isn't at the top, he would have been very, very, very close to the top. But also, like I said, I mean, if you see it a different way, your viewpoint counts too, because this is both of them are inexcusable behavior. And unfortunately, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel that out of the norm either. That's what's sad too. And that's the part that I think, like, people are saying it's sad and they want Huggins to get help, and I certainly do too. I mean, like, the guy, I don't want to diagnose from my house, so I'm not going to call him an alcoholic, but I think it's fair to say that he has problems with alcohol. I don't know what if the differentiation matters to most people, but I think it's fair to say that, like, this is a second DUI. I have all the different times I've seen this man in public, not at like games I've gone to, but like, at like events at Final Four events or what have you. He has had a few, like, and that's not a crime. That part of it's not a crime. Like, I've probably had a few when I'm there, but like, also you start like reverse engineering like this, or you start like looking back on this whole thing, and you're like, yeah, I mean, like, every time I've gone to like a party and Bob Huggins is there and everyone's surrounding him and he's just telling war stories for the room, and everyone's just eating, he's got everybody eating out of the palm of his hand, and he's like throwing a few shots back and drink, whatever, and like, it just kind of, and you kind of love that. But then now I feel like that whole lifestyle and that whole persona of who this man was has led to this point where, like, he does have a serious problem that needs to be addressed. And it's just like it's a weird dynamic, because like because if you would ask people not only who's the most likable coach, if you would have asked people like, what is it about Bob Huggins that you love so much, I guarantee you people would mention how much of a fun drinking buddy he is too. Like, people would have mentioned like, dude, he's the kind of guy you could just go to. Let me tell you about Bob Huggins. You go to a bar with that guy, and you're just gonna be fucking slamming, and that feels kind of gross now, But at the same time, like, that's who this man was forever, and now you're like, shit, this is no longer fun or funny, and that's why the whole thing's a mess. And I wish I had a unique slant on this, but I kind of don't. TJ, and that sucks. It sucks to sit in my chair and pretend like I'm or feel like I'm supposed to have some sort of take. And I don't really have a take. I just think it all fucking sucks. So,
yep,
that's it. But West Virginia this coming season, I mean, in the fall when the new season starts, you get Kirk Risa from Arizona, you get Jesse Edwards from Syracuse, Jose Perez, the Manhattan transfer who was supposed to play last year, but the eligibility nonsense kept him out. He's eligible now. Joe Toussaint, Trey Mitchell are both back. I think there are high hopes for this West Virginia team. Again, I don't know, Final Four probably feels a little ambitious, but they were going to be very competitive, and there's a lot of excitement, and in large part it was all these guys they brought in the transfer portal. Now, where do these guys go? Do they just promote from within? Ron Everhart is the lead assistant. He's been there a little bit. I feel like if you're going the interim route, he's pretty clearly the obvious choice, and you kind of hope for some sort of continuity with that. But that's the thing, like a guy like Huggins, his stature and his larger than life persona in Morgantown, he is the program. And now you just have like this huge vacuum that when Bob Huggins steps away, you're like, I don't know, is Kirk Risa going to want to stick around? Maybe he will, because he kind of doesn't have other options maybe now. But also at the same time, I don't know, he probably came here to play for Bob Huggins. He didn't come here to play for Ron Everhart, So that becomes very confusing, trying to figure out what the roster is even going to look like. I don't know. I don't know what West Virginia. I think like it feels very, very late in the calendar to hire a guy long term. I'm talking like offer like a 5-6 year deal to someone out there. you're certainly not you're not participating in the coaching carousel. The coaching carousel stops spinning, so it's not like you're gonna try to get involved in all that as guys are bouncing around and try to get one of these hot names that, you know, just went on an NCAA tournament run or something like that. Like, that shit's done. So where do they go? They could promote from within, do the interim route. I guess I expect them to do that, but I don't necessarily think they have to, because I think what's interesting is with West Virginia right now is that you have some decent coaches out there that don't have jobs. Like Chris Mack is a guy that comes to mind. I have no idea if Chris Mack is interested in West Virginia. I have no idea if West Virginia is interested in him. But when you have a guy like that out there, who's like not a bad basketball coach, you have like a guy like Mark Turgeon, who I could see ultimately ending up taking this job, which, like, I don't know if West Virginia fans would be super high on or not. It just becomes a little more interesting because I don't even know where they're going to go with this. And I think what I find, you know what's really crazy? I just thought about this. The rumor that I had heard when Chris Beard had gotten fired from Texas was that there was a path, like Chris Beard and Huggy Bear are tight. There was a path where Chris Beard was going to get reintroduced into the college basket. Like, he was going to become a viable candidate somewhere by going to Morgantown and being an assistant for Bob Huggins. I have no idea if there's any truth to this, but someone told me that I wouldn't say I was like reporting it. It was just like kind of like they're like, you know what could happen? Like, what's on the table is this. And they said, there's a world where Chris Beard goes to Morgantown. He's like the top assistant at West Virginia. He spends a year there, and he basically shows every other school that, like, I don't know, like Bob Huggins keeps him under his thumb. He's kind of like on probation. And it's like Bob Huggins will make sure he stays in line, but then once he shows that he's not once he doesn't hit his wife, I guess, for a whole year, then.
What a challenge to overcome.
That he proves that he's a good dude. Then he will go get hired somewhere, or they might Trojan horse him into West Virginia. And that was like that was the thing I was keeping an eye on as Chris Beard was not, before he was hired at Ole Miss, obviously. I was like, damn, is Chris Beard going to end up at West Virginia, and then Huggy Bear's going to step aside and they're going to appoint Chris Beard head coach, or, you know. That obviously doesn't happen because Ole Miss was like, fuck it, we'll take you right now. Come on down, Chris Beard, I'll take you right now. And I have no idea how close that was to happening, but that's a wild thing to think about now, TJ, that Chris Beard and Bob Huggins, two guys that have
good
had a
friends,
controversial.
I'm sure.
Yeah. That's wild to think about that. There could have been a world where, like, this scandal happens and Chris Beard had just been hired to be his top assistant. Now Chris Beard's like the interim coach at West Virginia. Can you imagine, like, the headlines? Fear not, everybody. If you're upset that Bob Huggins was representing our university, you don't have to worry anymore because Chris Beard will now be taking over. The other thing that's funny about this is obviously Joe Mazzulla played at West Virginia, and now West Virginia fans are in the same boat that Indiana fans were in with Brad Stevens, where you were cheering for the Celtics to do well enough that Joe Mazzulla proves that he's a good coach and he's got like good cachet nationally and in the basketball world, but also poorly enough that he gets fired. So then that way we can scoop him up and and that's what the IU fans in my life had. Just the most insane algorithm trying to figure out if they were cheering for the Celtics on any given night, because it was a very fickle thing as to whether you wanted Brad Stevens to win this game or lose this game. And I feel like that's where West Virginia people are at with Joe Mazzulla now, where it's like, we would love to have Joe Mazzulla as the coach, but also, unfortunately, because they came back from down 0-3 to tie the series, if they get swept, is Joe Mazzulla a coach without a team right now? Could he have been the guy that they hired? Mike Gansey's the GM of the Cavs, but that's different than coaching. That's an interesting one as well. What's Kevin Pittsnoggle up to? Let's get him on the phone, dude. They should have Kevin Pittsnoggle be the interim coach. That's the answer. Have Kevin Pittsnoggle. He's got to live in West Virginia, and he's got to be free. I mean, have Kevin Pittsnoggle step in, tell him he's the interim. Do it like Louisville did with David Padgett, where it's like, you're the interim. But damn it, we're gonna have a fun year, and we're gonna ride behind you. I don't know. John Beeline, do you call John Beeline, bring him back to Morgantown? There's a million different directions they could take this, and I have no idea what to expect. So that'll be fascinating.
If it was owns a car dealership in West Virginia.
That is perfect.
And he's worked as a special education teacher, high school basketball coach, and assistant principal in Martinsburg, West Virginia.
There you go.
So he's doing nothing.
He's got the coaching. He's got the coaching. He's got the coaching down. Chris Mack, I'm fascinated by. Chris Mack's not a bad basketball coach. Chris Mack would be, if West Virginia hires Chris Mack, which again, I'm not saying they have any interest in him whatsoever, or he has any interest in them, but that would be a great fucking hire. That would be an awesome hire. And West Virginia is a good program, by the way. I think they can get a pretty good coach. But it's something that I don't think they were really trying to think about right now. I don't think this was on anyone in Morgantown's radar, that they would have to be figuring this stuff out in late June. But here we are with Bob Huggins. Another question I have with Huggins, though. Do you think so remember when he said the slur, and then part of his punishment was he's going to lose $1 million, but then he has to go to sensitivity training? Is it possible that he just wanted out of sensitivity training that badly, where he's like, I don't want to go to sensitivity training. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tank my entire career, so that way I don't have to go. Will he still go to sensitivity training, TJ? That's the question.
I think maybe the sensitivity training was for the wrong issue. I think maybe guy gets on the radio in the middle of the day and starts dropping slurs. Maybe a couple drinks. No, I mean, like, that's decision making. Obviously, like, yeah,
that's what everyone's like. I can't believe he did this coming off of the last incident. Yeah. And it's like, well, I mean, I think they might be related. As it turns out,
one and two together usually equals 3.
But I'm saying not that Huggins is a victim in this story, so I hope people don't take this the wrong way. But there is, it's a weird thing, because there is an element of, like, I guess enabling would be the word. Like, I think the basketball community enabled this because that is what you wanted to see out of Bob. If you showed up at an event and Bob Huggins was there and he wasn't drinking, you would walk away and be like, that was weird. I was hoping Huggy Bear would let loose and, tell stories and all that sort of thing. So it's just it's a weird. That's why it's just like I just feel kind of mournful about it all, because the guy was an incredible basketball coach. He deserved to go out on his own terms, and ultimately he did. I guess I shouldn't keep saying that. He did go out on his own terms. He dictated these terms. These were the terms he decided for himself. It was all self-inflicted. I don't feel bad for him in that regard whatsoever. There's that part of you, TJ, that makes we as sports fans or consumers of sports, whatever you want to call it, I think each of us feels like we're special, and like the story that we build in our head is how things should happen. And I guess, like, when I sat there thinking about Bob Huggins, I was like, this was not the story I had in my head of how this man was supposed to end his career. But what I want has nothing to do with it. That's not how this works. So fascinating stuff in Morgantown, because moving forward, I don't know where they're going to go, and I don't know how good they're going to be this year. And it's the obvious parallel, I guess, would be Texas team from last year. I think Texas last year had a lot more talent than this West Virginia team does, but they go to the interim route and ultimately find their guy. And I imagine that's what West Virginia will do. I imagine you just promote the assistant and give yourself time to you don't have to take a big swing if you don't have to, but it'll be interesting. All right, here's a scenario. You're trying to find a cause for your symptoms. You have a fever. You got a little bit of a cough. You're not sleeping right. You got some mucus in your head. I don't know what's going on. So you stumble down a TikTok rabbit hole full of questionable advice from so-called experts. There are better ways to get the answers you want and the care you deserve from trusted professionals and not random people on the internet. Zocdoc helps you find expert doctors and medical professionals that specialize in the care you need and deliver the type of experience you want. Zocdoc is the only free app that lets you find and book doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, and are available when you need them, and also treat almost every condition under the sun. When you're not feeling your best and just trying to hold it together, finding great care shouldn't take up all your energy. That's where Zocdoc comes in, using their free app that millions of users rely on and can find the right doctor that meets your needs and fits your schedule. Book an appointment with a few taps in their app and start feeling better faster with Zocdoc. Go to Zocdoc.com/Titus and download the Zocdoc app for free, and then find and book a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc.com/Titus. Zocdoc.com/Titus. Download the app. It is free. Take your health seriously. It is something that all of us are, I'm guessing a lot of my audience is very, very lazy about this. I'm guilty of it too. Zocdoc makes it very easy for you. No excuses. Zocdoc.com/Titus. Go download now. Moving on. Bradley Beal to the Suns. Bradley Beal trade happens. People seem to be split on whether this is a good thing for the Suns, and because on the one hand, the Suns fleece the Wizards. But on the other hand, like, is this, as you look at the current Phoenix Suns roster, do you say to yourself that is a 2024 NBA title roster? I think people are split. For me, it's a good trade in the sense that the Suns did get better. I think that they are better today than they were before they traded Chris Paul and Landry Shamet for Bradley Beal. So if you're just looking at it from that pure, like, who won the trade, I think the Suns win, because the Suns obviously got much better, and Chris Paul is a polarizing guy. Like, I think I'm probably higher on Chris Paul than it feels like the internet, if such a thing exists. The people that love to shit all over Chris Paul the second he fails, I'm probably slightly higher on him than most people, but ultimately, like, he's injury prone. He's 38. He's never really proven to be a guy who's leading you to any noteworthy success in postseason runs. So, like, not that Bradley Beal is, but at least he's younger, and at least he's definitely more talented than Chris Paul at this point. So in that regard, I think the Suns got better, but I don't think this addresses their needs. I think scoring was never, like, Bradley Beal's a scorer. I don't think scoring was ever going to be their problem. I don't think, like, especially scoring on the wing. I don't think you're looking at the Suns roster saying, you know what we really need? Is we really need a guy. We have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, but what we really need is a guy who can run around the perimeter and put the ball in the basket for us. I don't think that was what the Phoenix Suns needed. I think they needed the role players. I think they needed more defensive-minded guys. I think they still need a point guard now at this point. So where I ultimately land on this is, like, it depends on what happens with DeAndre Ayton. Now, I imagine they're going to trade DeAndre Ayton, and they're going to address some of these needs. But if they don't do it, and if they don't do that, and or if the market for DeAndre Ayton isn't that great, and this roster that you see today from the Phoenix Suns is the roster that they roll out in the 2024 playoffs, no, I don't think the Suns are going to win an NBA championship with this team. I don't think they have the depth. I don't think they have the defense. I don't think I don't know how many times you need to see, like, 3 scoring dudes on the perimeter together in the NBA to realize, like, that's not really sustainable and not going to work. Like, how many times do NBA people, we NBA fans and media and all that, like, fall into the trap of getting sucked into believing in the super team that's been built when really the pieces don't fit together all that well. So I think that's the key, is, like, what happens when they trade DeAndre Ayton and what do they get? That's almost the more important trade, even though Bradley Beal is going to be a better player than anybody they get in the DeAndre Ayton trade. The DeAndre Ayton trade that may or may not be happening is the far more important trade. And if they can trade DeAndre Ayton and get guys like, I'm not saying get these guys, I'm just using the Nuggets as an example because they just won the title. Get a Bruce Brown type or a KCP type. Get dudes like that to fill out a Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. Now we're talking. Now we're cooking with something. But I don't know. It was kind of like a, okay, good first move. Now let's see what else you got. That was like my initial reaction to the Beal stuff, because I think they're going to be a ton of fun to watch for what it's worth. I think, like, those 3 dudes will get along. I don't think you're going to get, like, the Nets issues, like, where you have volatile personalities. I don't necessarily think that's going to be a problem with these guys. I just think that I don't think their games complement each other super well. But at the end of the day, if you can have dudes on your team that can only do one thing, and that one thing is scoring the basketball, that's a pretty good only one thing. I mean, that's not to say Bradley Beal can create for others and can, I don't mean to be reductionist with Beal's game or Booker or Durant, but like let's be honest, but that's what those three guys are. All three of those guys are scorers. That's what they do. But if there's one thing to do on a basketball court, that's pretty damn good. It's score the basketball. So it'll be fascinating.
People keep talking about this as like a super team attempt, like they're attempting to build a super team, but you've only mentioned 4 guys' names in this entire conversation, and one of them was the guy that they traded away. Like a super team is built around a core, obviously, but how many guys can they possibly get for DeAndre Ayton to fill out a roster where they like? I don't see it happening. Like their odds did move up from I think 8-1 to like 6-1. They're the 4th favorite to win the title. I don't really see it as that earth-shaking of a move. Like Chris Paul's a good player still.
Yeah, I mean they're going to be a ton of fun to watch. They're going to have. I mean they did that against the Nuggets. They had the 2 games against the Nuggets where Booker couldn't miss. And they're going to be nice. But this is the problem with 7-game series is like, can you sustain just insane offensive explosion when their defense is atrocious? The Suns' defense was so bad in the playoffs. And I think that's the issue. I think their mindset should have been what the Nuggets was, which is basically like they have an incredible offense. They just got to make some tweaks on the defensive end, buy in a little more on the defensive end, and fill out the roster with some dogs, and they'll be good. And I think that so far the Suns did the opposite. And the Suns were like, let's get more scoring and let's get more and I don't think that's what they need. But I also really like Bradley Beal as a basketball player. So like I don't mean to pin this on like I don't think Bradley Beal is the guy. I think Bradley Beal is awesome. I think they have a shit ton of talent. And like I said, there is a little bit of difference between this and some of the other super teams that have been built, which is to say like I don't think those 3 egos are going to be at odds with one another in quite the same ways that, when you start introducing your Kyrie Irvings and your Ben Simmons and your James Hardens and your who else has been on a quote unquote super team that's fallen apart. I don't think they're going to have that problem, but I just don't think they're good enough. I don't think the roster is good enough right now, and they gotta figure out something. They gotta use DeAndre Ayton's the only thing they can do. I mean, that's the one move is trade DeAndre Ayton for some smaller pieces that complement the other 3 dudes. So, what else? U.S. Open. I want to talk about that quickly, and then we'll answer some questions. So, worst U.S. Open ever. This is what everyone's saying. It kind of like spiraled out of control. Where like it felt like people like were thinking this is a bad U.S. Open, and then they were looking over at someone else's answer. Did you write down it was a bad U.S. Open that you thought it was a bad? You said it was a bad U.S. And then like people went from like this is a bad U.S. Open to like this is the worst U.S. Open I've ever seen to like literally nothing about this U.S. Open is good. And it was very, very confusing because when people watch the U.S. Open, they want to see the course dominate. They don't want to see the course dominate the players. They want to see a course that's so difficult that in order to win the tournament, you have to play an insane level of golf because the course is so demanding. And I think the reputation of this Open just got off to a horrendous start on Thursday because the weather was not cooperating, because the damn marine layer would not burn off, and the greens were not as firm as they were expecting. And you get Schauffele and Ricky Fowler shooting -8, and everyone's thinking like, are we going to see -30 win this tournament? In the end, the tournament, there were 2 dudes in the entire tournament that shot better than -8 for the entire tournament. So like the course kind of came back and wasn't that bad. So there were some issues with like I will say like with Wyndham Clark's tee shot on 18, he slices the shit out of it and it stays in the fairway. That was, ideally you probably get punished for a terrible tee shot. But I just thought it was fascinating watching like the way people were talking about this U.S. Open, because I thought it was not a good U.S. Open, but the way, like by the time Wyndham Clark hits the putt to win the thing, you would have thought that like this was the worst golf tournament that's ever been put on ever. And I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was compelling television. I thought like what was ultimately missing was there was no, and maybe this is why people didn't love it that much. There weren't really any iconic shots. I guess maybe it was that there was like as you think back on the whole 4 days, you're like, there were a few hole-in-ones. There were Scheffler holes out from the fair. Like I'm trying to think of like what other. There was the I think it was on 14. I want to say where Wyndham Clark had the approach shot. Yeah, because he got on the green in 2 from 14, and where he fell to his knee, and like it was that one shot where like kind of he falls to his knee and was kind of like willing the ball to the green. That was it though. I mean, like that, like as far as like iconic, like where were you type moments, it was just a lot of like crossing your fingers that Rory will hit one putt. And it didn't really feel like Wyndham Clark necessarily dominated his way to victory. It was just more like Rory wasn't hitting any putts, and Wyndham Clark was just not screwing up enough to hand it over to him. And then in the end, that was the ultimate story. But I don't know. It was. Did you watch any of this U.S. Open, TJ? What was your? And if you did not, what was your vibe? Just like seeing the internet talking about it.
I watched it mostly on TVs inside bars.
Yeah.
And to me, it looked fine. I think a lot of the complaints a lot of the complaints I saw were about how quiet big moments were around, like crowds being around the holes, and then a lot of like forever around like a ball going into the rough and then just being dropped out onto the fringe or something like that. So you were there. Were you surprised when you saw all this hate going online, or did it feel like that in the moment?
So the stuff being in the crowd stuff, I can't defend that. The crowd stuff was bad. The venue was. I went on Friday and I was shocked. So I went to the practice round on Tuesday, and then I went back on Friday, and I was a little surprised at how similar it felt. Like it felt like a practice round. Now maybe Saturday, Sunday, there starts to get a little more buzz, but there was zero buzz. There was like zero. Yeah, you go to enough like big sporting events in your life, you can feel like a tangible buzz when you step into arenas and step into stadiums and stuff. Zero of that. There was none of that when I was walking around. It was just like you're out at a park and they're playing golf. I'm just like strolling around, like grabbing a beer, drinking a beer, talking. Like there was no like people weren't locked in. There weren't really like people like talking about what's going on the course. It just felt like there was nobody there, kind of. And ultimately, that's what it was. It was I think Dan Rappaport was tweeting about that there was like no tickets issued. Yeah. The club themselves bought half the tickets just to keep people off the course. That is maddening, because I think, and this is the part that like I didn't want to have to do. I wasn't really looking forward to doing this on this show, but I have to defend the people of LA because we're taking a beating, TJ. Like the LA residents are taking an absolute beating that we're not showing up for this US Open. We were showing up. The tickets that were available were sold out. Everybody bought every ticket. The tickets, there were $300+ to get in on any given day for this US Open. $300 to like walk around a course where I'll say this too. When I was there on Friday, they weren't given a ton of access to places. I tried to walk over to the 13th green because that's where the Playboy Mansion is, and you know,
nice.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, so I find out that the Playboy Mansion's there, so I was like, I'm gonna take a picture of that and send it to people and just be like, hey, this is a cool little trivial thing that did you realize that the U.S. Open is being played on the Playboy, by the Playboy Mansion? So I'm walking over there, and you can't even get anywhere close to the 13th green. They just like rope it off to where, I mean, I must have been 100 yards away from the green, which like, for my instance, to snap a picture of you can't even see in the mansion. Like it was a very stupid reason for me to be there anyway, so I wasn't really that upset. But then I was thinking like, man, what if you're, I don't know, the family of one of these golfers and you wanted to like support them on the 13th green, and you won't even let people go over there and provide some sort of environment by the 13th and the 14th tee. The access was crazy because there were a handful of holes where they would let you, it felt normal, but for the most part, like I felt like it was very bizarre, like the directions that they would send fans when they were walking around, and it didn't feel like there were a ton of people there. I definitely feel like that's a real criticism, but the slander of the LA people, and I say this as a guy who I don't necessarily get along with LA people all that well, TJ, but I just think it's unfair because I think the residents of Los Angeles would have if you would have sold a shit ton of tickets, I think they would have sold out and people would have packed that place and been absolutely rowdy. It's just that these Illuminati fucks at the LA Country Club bought every ticket and then just sat on them because they didn't want people there. And if you don't want people there, then why are you hosting the U.S. Open?
Right. The more you talk about it and the more you explain this place, the LA Country Club, the more it does sound like they're hiding something there, because I read that they wanted to buy like all of the tickets out and have only who they distributed tickets to. Like they tried to buy more than just out. So I don't know what they're hiding.
But why host the U.S. Open? That's what I don't like. No, who held a gun to your head and said
a country club in the middle of a city if you're not going to let the people of the city? I don't get that, like that the country club culture. I guess it just seems like this. All like the criticism lies on the fact that they chose a venue that didn't want to host an Open. I don't know why, or a major. I don't know why that they would accept hosting a major if they didn't want to have like the fanfare of a major around it. But I don't think it's necessarily good for golf for that sort of thing to happen.
I thought it was a good course though. I thought the course, you know, it was fun. I enjoyed watching the golf. I enjoyed like kind of the holes I was talking about on the last show we did, where I was saying like I was fascinated with hole number 6 and hole number 8. And I was curious to see how guys were going to approach those. And I found that to be riveting. I sat, when I was there Friday, I sat by hole 11, which is the long part 3, the downhill one. And that was a ton of fun, just watching the different approaches to that one and the way guys were attacking that. And like some dudes would hit it in the bunker and the way they'd get up and down from there. And who was it that got up and down from the far side of the hill? I forget. I saw someone that was anyway. Point was like it was cool to see all the different holes and the way the strategies were coming into play and all that sort of thing. I do think the fairway width, that's a valid criticism. I think if you're someone that's frustrated by that and you like to see more narrow fairways in the U.S. Open, that's very valid. But I thought the course as a whole was like fine. I mean, I think that course is. I think you take away some of the other issues that people had with this U.S. Open. I don't think people were criticizing the course that much. It was just like a perfect storm almost that all came together, and people were going bananas. The marine layer, by the way. So I live in Marina Del Rey. I shit you not, TJ. This has been every day of my life for like 6 months. This is something that is. Another thing, though, this is known. This is like something that happens in LA, so I don't understand why they had the U.S. Open in June in LA when June gloom is a thing every single June. And this is a very common. This idea that it was going to be sunny and dry out the greens, and they were counting on that. And damn it, who saw that marine layer coming? It's like I saw it coming because I'm the dumbass that moved by the beach thinking it was going to be sunny and 75 every day, and now I wake up in the middle of June to fucking clouds and have to wait till 2 p.m. to see if the clouds burn off, and they never do, TJ. They never do. Poor me.
It was something that it was a phenomenon I was completely unaware was a thing, by the way. The marine layer melting away.
It has been horrendous this year. Not just in June. It has been people laugh at me because I'm moving to Chicago in 3 weeks, and I'm telling people that I'm excited to move to Chicago because I'm ready to like see the sun. And everybody laughs because when I tell people I'm moving from LA to Chicago, they're like, good luck with the weather in Chicago, obviously. Because in their mind, LA has perfect weather. Chicago in the winters is going to be brutal. I'm like, no, dude, you'd be surprised. The sun is not coming out in Los Angeles at all right now, at all. I've day after day after day, it's just cloudy. You don't see the sun whatsoever. Meanwhile, like Chicago seems to be popping off. So I'm excited to move to Chicago just to see the damn sun. I live in Los Angeles, but the marine layer that wasn't an anomaly. This is something that happens. So on the one hand, like, I don't blame the course for that. But on the other hand, it's like, why have the U.S. Open in June in LA if you know that the marine layer is going to? Why were you counting on something to happen that like wasn't going to happen? I could have told you it wasn't going to happen. So, the broadcast stunk too. I will say that NBC stinks at this. I didn't love that. I thought that was a fair. The plane going around overhead. When I was there, the plane was flying a banner for a nursery, not like a baby nursery, a tree nursery, which it's weird. It's kind of weird that we use that word for both babies and trees, but it's just like an advertisement for like to buy trees at this place. But then you turn on the US Open and you just hear the whole time for just so they can advertise to like 1,000 people to buy trees. I don't understand that. There's nobody there. There's nobody at the place. What else? I thought all in all it was probably a slightly subpar U.S. Open, but I thought Sunday was fun. I think like having Rory in the mix and Ricky kind of shit the bed. That was a bummer. I was really pulling for him, but Wyndham Clark, you know, he went out and won it, and he's gonna be a fun golfer to watch, man. He hits the piss out of the ball, and I don't really feel like it was a fluke. I think that's the other thing is I think golf fans are so obvious front runners because they only want to cheer for the guys they know. So I think there was like a sense of like this Wyndham Clark guy. Who the hell is he? He wins, and that leaves you mad. But that makes zero sense because how do guys become household names if you don't allow them to win?
Correct.
You have to let new guys win, so then that way there could be a world where Wyndham Clark wins like 6 or 7 majors, and then you're doing the exact opposite, where now you're cheering for him on Sundays instead of saying, get this guy out of my face and get Rory or Scotty Scheffler, whoever else up there.
I always think it's cool too, just from a storyline. Like in few sports can you see a guy that you have never heard his name maybe before today for the average golf fan beating like a top 5 full of like legacy golfers. Like that doesn't happen in other sports. For the most part.
That's true. Yeah, there's no like one-on-one game in basketball where like LeBron's just over and over for 18 holes. Yeah. Not even 18 holes, for 72 holes gets beat by some up and comer that no one's really. That doesn't happen. Yeah. That's a good point. There was I wrote down a couple observations as well. One was that the front runners that everybody Ricky Fowler, it was on 11 and he missed a bogey. No. Was it 11 or was it 8 when I was there? I forget. I saw Ricky Fowler. Where was it? Doesn't matter. Fowler, when he was in the lead, missed a par putt. So he obviously would have a bogey and lose a stroke. He misses the par putt, and the gallery, Ricky Fowler could have pulled out a gun and shot a baby in the face, and I don't think that the reaction would have, the noise that the gallery made would have been very similar. I'm just like horrified, like, oh, like, oh no, like people just like cannot believe what they just witnessed. And I found that hilarious because like they were just cheering for Ricky Fowler because he's a name they know and he was in first place, but really there was like no reason to like be horrified by Ricky Fowler having a bogey otherwise. But I do think people are just front runners and they were just like, this would be cool. And they kind of, like I said earlier with like Bob Huggins, where you like build this story in your head of like what's going to happen. And so you've already, by Friday and Saturday, you've already talked yourself into, oh my God, Ricky Fowler is going to win his first major and this is going to be a cool story. And this is, so there was that. The other thing, TJ, is that people that go to golf events are absolutely obsessed to a very bizarre level of the ball, of any sort of shot that goes outside the ropes and goes into the crowd area. So I'm sitting on 11, and one of the tee shots, Hatton's tee shots, Terrell Hatton, he kind of hooks his tee shot, and it goes on the wrong side of the ropes. And it kind of, I'm sitting on a hill by 11, and it bounces about 10, 15 yards from me. And I was like, oh, damn, that's crazy. The ball just bounced right there. And all of a sudden, I see everybody stand up and run over to the ball and like look at it, and they're all like squinting at it, and they're looking at it and pointing at it, and like one guy's like looking to I saw the one person picked up the ball at one point. People are looking, is that a ball? It's a golf ball. Oh my God, that's a golf. Is that, he hit that from up there and they came here? That's the ball. And everybody's just huddling around the ball, and like all these volunteers have to come and be like, morons, it's a golf ball. Everybody back up. We got to get a shot. But I just remember thinking like a UFO could have landed on the 18th green in that moment, and I think people would have been less interested than a literally just a golf ball bouncing. And if that same golf ball bounces on the other side of the ropes, but pretty close to them, I don't think people are like hounding that. What a bizarre phenomenon that people are just like, it's a golf ball. Holy shit. I
don't have a ton of room to talk because I did grow up a foul ball aficionado. Like a batting practice.
But that's hold on.
But the thing is, you get to keep that.
Yes.
Right? Yes.
That's a souvenir.
Golf, you just get to see it, and you can see a golf ball almost anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, so, that's a new business idea I have is take golf balls to a golf event and then charge people $5 and be like, I have a golf ball in my pocket. If you pay me $5, I will drop it in front of you. I'll drop it in front of you and you can look at it.
It's fascinating. What are the odds that you would see a golf ball at a golf course?
Crazy,
that
right?
is pretty rare. Like I'd be excited too, honestly.
I used to get that. I used to get like existential when I was playing basketball, where I would watch during timeouts when I'm not paying attention to the huddle, and you'd watch like cheerleaders doing t-shirt toss, and you would just see these like these businessmen dudes that have season tickets that are paying God knows what, and they're driving their Range Rovers and their Mercedes to these games and sitting courtside at these basketball games and all that sort of thing. And for a $5 t-shirt that says like Roosters Chicken, Go Buckeyes on it, they're waving their arms. They're like, I will do anything to. And by the way, the shirt doesn't even fit them. They're like probably a size medium. It's an XL, and they're doing whatever they can to get the attention so they can catch the t-shirt. And I just remember at various points just being like, humans are wild. We're just like a wild species. They're like, I really do think if you're like a cheerleader at a basketball game, you could just shit in your hand, and if you start waving it above your hand, you're like, who wants it? The place will go crazy. Like, what? Over here. And that was the same thing going on with the golf ball bouncing on the other side of the ropes. So fascinating. And then the last thing I was gonna say, golf kind of sucks to watch in person. I'm sorry to say it. It was the first major I've ever been to. I haven't been to a golf event in a long time, and I love golf. I have no problem with walking either. I like walking places. It just kind of like added up to like a not as enjoyable of a day as I was hoping for, TJ. I don't know. It was a ton of walking, ton of standing on your feet. You don't see as many awesome shots as you want to see. Like, it's kind of like in your mind, you're like, I'm just going to post up right here and just see. But then you kind of like don't like even when I was at 11, I'm sitting by the green. The hole was so far away that you almost couldn't even tell where the ball was until at the last second. Then it's hitting the green, which was fine. It just like wasn't kind of what I saw in my head when I was going there. I
don't think the broadcast was that good anyway either, though. Like, I don't think you were missing it. Like, from what I saw in the broadcast, it seemed like they kept showing the same 5 guys over and over again, and one of those guys was Brooks Koepka, who was in like 45th place all Saturday. I was like, why do I care? He's not coming back. He's even, and he's like 8 strokes back of the league. Like, I get that it's Brooks, but like, can we show the guys that are in the top 10, specifically Min Woo Lee, who some of us have money on to finish top 10? Like,
I had no idea what was going on. The cell service sucked too, by the way, which is probably the LACC people were probably bogarting on the cell service.
With 5G towers.
So while I was there, like you can't really tell what's going on other holes because people aren't even reacting really. So like you're not even hearing like the crowd roar of being like, I got to go see what happens. So I'm trying to like be informed of what's going on throughout the whole tournament. I was struggling at that, both from my spots on the golf course, but then also like not having cell service, and then on top of it, I'm walking all over the place, and it just, I don't know. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for. I'm glad I went. But I don't think I'm in any hurry to go back to the U.S. Open anytime soon. But I don't know. Maybe I'll go next year though. Maybe I will go next year. Maybe if I get a taste of something else outside of LACC, it'll be a different vibe. But I didn't really think it was like that. Overall, my U.S. Open experience was like I don't know, C plus. But the way people were talking, it was like this is an F minus, So I think people just hate LA. I think that's what it is. Because I saw people just like... you just mentioned Los Angeles and people go bananas, which is very fascinating to me because like I saw the one story, the guy playing house music on whatever green it was, and people were just losing their minds at typical LA douchebags and all that. And I agree. It is the typical LA douchebag. The one thing I would just like to explain to people as someone who's lived in Los Angeles now for a little while is... that guy does not care. That guy does not care what... I have to explain this to my people back in Ohio and Indiana where they'll be like, how's LA? I heard that Newsom was this, and what about the this and that and this and and I'm just like, yeah, I don't know, man. I just live every day and kind of have a pretty easy life out there. I don't know. It's not too bad to me. I kind of like it. But then I always tell them, I was like, you know what people in LA think about people in Indiana and Ohio? And they're like, what is it? What do they think about us? And I was like, they don't think about you at all. Not one goddamn second do they think about anybody other than themselves, which is why you hate them and why you learn to, you become very frustrated by people in Los Angeles, but then ultimately you realize you're never going to beat them. You can't beat the people of LA, TJ. This is what I want to say to America. Like the guy who's playing the guy who's playing music during a golf tournament, you can go crazy all you want. That guy's going to win. He's going to win because he doesn't care. He's never going to care. As much as you hate LACC, they're going to win as well. They're going to host the U.S. Open in 2039. This is how it works. Rich people in Los Angeles get whatever they want, and we should hate them. That's how we should. We should all hate them collectively. I'm just here to tell you, it's not really going to get anything done. It's not. It's not. Like I've tried my hardest to hate these people. I hate the rich kids especially. I have made zero progress on making any sort of difference in this sort of thing. So like as much as I want to get mad and say LACC should never get to host anything again, I'm working on a theory that if you have enough money, you can do whatever you want in the world of golf. I don't know. I'm still collecting some more data though on that theory because I don't know if we have any other examples of money just swooping in and saying we're going to call the shots now. But that's what if LACC wants to host the U.S. Open every single year, I'm sure the Illuminati of LACC could get together and find a way to do it. So I just want to explain that to people as well. That like I get it, you hate Los Angeles, but unfortunately, that's going to get you nowhere. That's not. Los Angeles doesn't care. Los Angeles, you could, yeah. The people of LA simply do not care whatsoever, and it's going to enact exactly zero change. Your hatred of these people. So that's all, and that's the U.S. Open. Quick break to talk about our friends at Gametime, the exclusive ticketing partner of Barstool Sports, created by fans for fans. Gametime is the ticketing app that makes it easier than ever to score last-minute deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows, and they guarantee the lowest price. I have my Colorado trip coming up next week, actually. I'm very excited about it. I am planning on seeing Dead & Company in Boulder, Colorado. I think Blink-182 is in Ball Arena that same time I'm there. And I'm going to try to hit a Colorado Rockies game also. I'm going to do 3 nights, 3 shows, 3 very different experiences, but I'm going to use one app to go to all 3 of these, and it is going to be the Gametime app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats you thought you could never buy. The purchase process takes just 2 taps and 10 seconds, and once you buy your tickets, they're delivered directly to your phone, no printer needed. The app also allows you to easily share tickets with friends via text so you can get into the game seamlessly. Skip the hassle and enjoy the moment. Download the Gametime app or go to the website, enter your email, and redeem code Titus for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Go download Gametime app, enter your email, redeem code Titus, $20 off. Big summer coming up with all sorts of fun events. You got to be there. You got to go see the shows, go to the sports, go do everything you want to do. Do not have FOMO. Go download the Gametime app. Make sure you're there. Gametime. Let's do some. You got any questions? Anybody write anything?
Yeah.
Reading.
So we asked for questions on Twitter and Instagram last week. I'm sure we'll do this a couple times as the off season goes on. A lot of people just asked for like opinions on their team. If you want to just do like 5-second rapid reactions to a couple of these to knock them out first.
I hope I know enough to know about the transfer portal. I haven't done enough. I haven't been as locked in as I need to be. But yeah, go ahead.
Maryland. A couple people asked about Maryland.
Yeah, Maryland. I don't know. Kevin Willard will be fun. That's awesome. That's exciting. What's Maryland's roster looking like?
I'm a big Kevin Willard hater.
I think. Yeah, Kevin Willard is. Hang on. Now I got to pull up Maryland basketball roster. You talking about Maryland men or women's, by the way?
Men's, for the record.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you for asking.
Oh, Jameer Young's back. Yeah, they're going to be good. Julian Reese. Dude, I think the Donta Scott's back. Yeah, they're going to be fucking good, dude. Jordan Geronimo. I didn't know he transferred to Maryland. Maryland's going to be good. Is that what you want me to say? I think Maryland's going to be good. I think the Big Ten's going to be really, really good, though. And I think we're in this weird... I think moving forward for college basketball, the SEC and Big Ten and Big 12 in particular, it's like a new normal where you finish in your conference almost doesn't even matter. And that's bizarre because I think there's a world where, like, I'm conditioned... old, in the Big Ten, where like if you finish 8th or 9th in the Big Ten, that's a horrendous season, and you should fire everybody and blow it up and start over and all that sort of thing. But like now, there's so many damn teams in the league, and the league is so deep that, I don't know where Maryland's going to finish in the Big Ten. I know the Big Ten's going to be very good, but I think Maryland will be good too. So there, yeah.
I'm sure you know this by now, but if you just say they're going to be good, to any of those.
That's all you got to say.
That fulfills what the question was asked.
I do like Kevin. I do like Kevin Willard there, though. He feels more right than Turgeon ever felt, and they had a good year last year. Yeah, he was good last year. 22 wins. Jameer Young's awesome.
I just worry that the Big Ten is about to hit another year where all of the teams are too good to be in the same conference, and then you have like really good teams that are like 11th place in the Big Ten, but would be good elsewhere.
Yeah, but that's the thing. But that's the thing about the Big Ten is that unless you have the wrong name on the front of your chest, you'll still make the tournament if you even if you finish 11th. So yeah. What else? I didn't realize. By the way, this is exciting. I didn't realize Jameer Young's back for Maryland. I thought he was a senior last year. That's what COVID and
nothing.
I don't even know what eligibility.
Anymore.
Nothing matters anymore.
So you could be a senior 5 years ago and you're still playing. Virginia returns ACC Defensive Player of the Year. Beekman, their Georgetown transfer Dante Harris, a solid shooter McNeely, and super athletic Ryan Dunn. Yet they aren't mentioned in any top 25 and even some top 36 rankings. Has the media forgot about Tony Bennett?
I don't think the media's forgot about Tony Bennett. I think the media hates Tony Bennett, and anytime the media gets a chance to not respect Virginia, they're going to pounce all over it. And Virginia, coming off of the NCAA tournament debacle we saw, they are in a position to like if you can say that Tony Bennett is not that guy, and Virginia and he's washed up, and his style of basketball won't work in modern basketball, and if that's your point of view, the second you can get away with saying that and not get killed for it, you just pounce all over it. But when Tony Bennett's winning the ACC and winning national championships and all that, you get a little pause. But now Virginia coming off of their NCAA tournament debacle, I think people just feel empowered, and they're just like, I don't want to rank Tony Bennett. I don't like watching Virginia play basketball. I do like watching Virginia play basketball, and I will always believe in Tony Bennett. But I do have TJ, if I'm being completely honest. I'm not starting to have doubts, but I'm starting to. Things are just looking slightly awry, Like you just start seeing some things, and you're just like, "Huh, that doesn't feel right." About Virginia, that doesn't. I don't know if I want to believe in the pack line, TJ, but in a world where every single kid coming up now can shoot threes, and that's like the Achilles heel of the pack line defense. I don't know.
They've had a rough 3-month stretch here across all sports. We could talk a little college baseball after these questions, but they massively blew a lead in the College Baseball World Series, and then with the first team eliminated, they blew a late lead in the lacrosse Final Four, and then obviously the Furman game. So they've had a rough go of it as of the last 3 months or so.
The last NCAA tournament game that Tony Bennett won?
Was it the national championship game?
It was the national championship, yeah. That was the last time Tony Bennett won an NCAA tournament.
I'll say it. Worth. That's worth.
That's what I'm saying. That's where you find yourself. Like when they lose to Furman and Kia Clark has the terrible pass, and I saw people talking about that. They're like, was that a trade you would make? Like this run of Virginia basketball has just been a kick in the nuts, and then there was a national title, and then kick in the nuts, and I'm like, go back to the national title. There was a national title. It was 100% worth it.
You could kick me in the nuts 100 years in a row for a national championship. I'm taking that deal.
Yeah, I think Virginia is. I believe in Tony. I'll always believe in Tony because Kyle Guy told me that Tony would right the ship, and then he did, and they won the national championship. So yeah. I don't know.
This one's from Ty Kohler. If you could add one unconventional rule to college basketball, what would it be?
One unconventional rule to college basketball. I mean, I've been so charges. We're not. I've already done that rant. I've been pro no eligibility requirements. Like I the frustrating part right now with guys sticking around for 6 years is not that, in my mind, it's not that they're sticking around for 6 years. It's that we're still under a system where you're supposed to graduate and move on, but then guys somehow don't, and that's really weird to me. I think I am pro, like, you should be able to be in school as long as you want to be, as long as you're taking classes and I've had that take for a while, TJ. That I think guys should be able to play as long as they want in college basketball, and I think eventually they're going to be able to. I don't know. Does that count as unconventional? Or are you talking about like actual gameplay rules? Gameplay rules would be
the one I thought of was 4-point half-court shots.
I think only in like the last minute of the game or something. Ooh. I think like if you're doing that and guys are just throwing up half-court shot, that would become very unwatchable. That would become if you think watching guys brick threes is bad.
Would that become part of a team's offensive strategy? Is let's get a guy that can huck half-quarters 10% of the time?
Somebody would try it, and it would just be disgusting basketball to watch, and it would not be fun. Even though it seems fun, I don't think. But at the end of the game, that would be fun if you're down 4.
Yeah,
and you could
foul up 4.
Yeah, do you foul up 4? Do you let him? I don't like the NBA advancing the ball during timeouts. That's something that I think some people try to get that they want college to adopt. That's antithetical to sports to me. Like how do you advance a ball? Like you just put a ball in like you teleport the ball from one part of the court to the other just by calling timeout. I don't like it. So that's not a change I want to see. Yeah, I can't really think of drastic. Oh, here's a drastic one that I would like to see: the FIBA goaltending rules. So if the ball hits the second the ball hits the rim, you could swat it away. I like that. I think that's a good rule. I think college basketball should have that. And I don't think there's any world where college basketball is going to adopt that anytime soon. So I don't know. Does that count? That feels sort of unconventional. That I think you should be allowed to basically goaltend in college basketball.
Sure.
Shit, you should be allowed to. No, that's a terrible idea. You should be allowed to goaltend any shot within. What about that? There we go. I'm getting closer, TJ. I'm arriving on the crazy take. You should be allowed to goaltend any shot within like 7 feet. Any shot that's taken within 7 feet, you can block it at any time, even when it's on the way down, even if it's already hit the backboard, it's already hit the rim, whatever. If it's taken within 7 feet, you got to come strong or don't come at all. You know, like you gotta try dunking on dudes. That would encourage people to try to dunk on each other. That would encourage more powerful finishes. You know,
yeah.
Get this finesse shit out of here.
Hell yeah.
I have to think about that more. Is that insane? That's probably insane. That's probably insane.
Neil on Twitter, Neil Patel said, for the hypothetical show with Brandon Walker, are you going to be focusing on college football or going on all around sports like usual?
All around sports. That's the appeal, I think, of Brandon and I talking, is that we can talk about, the two of us can talk about anything. With the last time Brandon was on the show, I did not tell him what I wanted to talk about before we sat down and started recording, and I also wrote down no notes of where I wanted to steer the conversation before we sat down. It was as blind as you can do a show. I don't recommend it for the youngsters out there getting into the podcasting world. But yeah, I sat down with Brandon and we just like let it rip, and hell, we could have talked for 6 hours that day. So we'll talk about anything, man. That's part of why I came to Barstool too. I was like, I want to branch out from just talking about college basketball all the time. I want to talk about the U.S. Open, for example.
Right.
So yeah,
I think
we'll
it'll be cool.
everything.
I think that Brandon's been doesn't get along with many people as well as he gets along with you, and I don't know where that chemistry comes from, if it's just an age similarity or what, but
I will say it is really bizarre because Brandon and I had instant chemistry, like immediately. Yeah, the first time I ever talked to that guy.
Like first love type chemistry.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really make sense. He doesn't do that with most people. He's like very turned off from talking to at all if he doesn't have to, but
I never talked to him even before I met. It wasn't like we were DMing each other on Instagram or Twitter or something, and I never talked to the guy. Never talked to him once. The first time I talked to him, we fell in love immediately. TJ, it was like love at first sight. So
should be fun.
I'm fired up. That show's gonna be awesome. That show, to be fully transparent, I see that show being my primary deal at Barstool. I really do. I think we're gonna continue doing this show and have some fun with it and try to figure out what the next iteration of this show is. Because thank you to everybody that's been following along and still watching us on YouTube and subscribing to the podcast feed and all that. But to be fully transparent, like this is not even close to a finished product. This is the Mark Titus show. I mean, I signed on at Barstool in the middle of a college basketball season. We wanted to have some sort of outlet for me to rip off my college basketball takes because the NCAA tournament was coming up. So we kind of started this show for that. The big question was always, what are you going to do after the college basketball season? And in between that time and the move to Chicago. And yeah, we're kind of living that out right now, which is like I don't want to do Zoom shows from my tiny ass apartment where me and TJ are thousands of miles away, and like this is not what I'm trying to do. So we're gonna figure out what the new iteration of this show is once we get to Chicago. But also I say that to say that I see the show with Brandon being my bread and butter and like the thing I'm most excited about, to be completely honest. And I'll figure out how this fits in with that, and everything will sort of make more sense later. But yeah, I'm very, very excited to do a show with Brandon. We'll have a ton of fun. So yeah.
This one's from PG Jeans on Twitter. He said, who are your favorite voices in college basketball?
I'm a Gus Johnson guy, like everyone else.
Me too. I don't like him for football, though. Is that weird?
I don't. Yeah, I think he makes so much sense for basketball. It's just, and then football. This was his problem with soccer. Do you remember that they were trying to make Gus Johnson the voice of
American
of the
soccer?
World Cup, because Fox got World Cup rights, and then they were putting Gus on like Premier League games, and people hated it. And the reason they hated it is because he would do his patented Gus like building up the moment on every single attack. And you can't do that in soccer. You can't be like, and here's Ronaldo, and he loses the ball, and now Messi.
It's just like edging.
It is. Yeah, you can't do that in soccer because there's like 2 goals a game, maybe, if that. So, when goals were scored, the payoff would be awesome, and he would go bananas. But his voice and his cadence just works perfectly for college basketball. I love Jason Benetti and Robbie Hummel, man. Like those. I love when they're calling games together. They're awesome as well. I think they're so freaking good. But yeah, I'm a Gus guy. Gus is the answer. Raftery obviously is one that everybody loves, but I'm gonna miss Jim Nance. TJ, can I say that now? Now that we're in the off season, I think I am gonna miss Jim Nance a lot. I think Jim Nance was awesome for college basketball, and I was worried leading into it, as we talked about on the show at the time. I was worried about him making his farewell about himself. The man did not do that whatsoever. All class from him. Yeah, I like Jim Nance. I'm not afraid to admit it. He just didn't call enough games, though. By the end there, he was just calling like 3 games a year, and then he'd pop in for the Final Four, and that was it. But Gus is the man. Gus is my answer.
I like Dickie V for selfish reasons.
What? Because he's a Rutgers guy. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He's a Rutgers guy. Yeah, Dickie V's awesome. Dickie V's still good. I get the Dickie V complaints out of my face. He's the man. Never mind. I don't need to do this now. Like he can be annoying, sure, but like, God damn it, he's
Dickie V.
He's Dickie V. He's a legend. This is what you pay to see, man. This is why we get into college basketball. It's guys like him. Like Dickie, if I don't turn on a Duke game and see Dickie V with the camera crazy, he's like, something's a little off, Like that's what. No.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I don't like what people are doing to Dickie V.
Yeah.
As of late. So, go ahead.
This one's from Tim Hitchings on Twitter. He said, with the new Chicago office and basketball court, do you think it's possible to teach TJ how to correctly shoot a basketball? And I sent you a video of me shooting a basketball.
Oh, my God. Let me see this.
This is from last year, Barstool Idol.
Oh, no. The wedgie. The Jake Marsh wedgie?
It's not only a wedgie, but Brandon's commentating this video, and he's saying it's hard to tell from watching if I'm shooting right-handed or left-handed.
Oh, that's bad, TJ. Yeah, we got to clean that up. Yeah, I see that now. Yeah,
I posted that on Instagram, and both Ron Harper and Geo Baker responded with just like face palm emojis. Like, we got to get you in the gym for multiple reasons. Like, I don't know. I don't have any wrist strength, I think, is the issue.
We'll get you right. I'm doing that with PFT. PFT has asked me like 5 different times already if I can teach him how to shoot a basketball, and I might be overconfident, but I feel I feel as strongly about being able to teach people how to shoot a basketball as I do about being able to teach you anything, TJ. Like that's the one thing I feel qualified to be a.
Yeah.
If there's like one job I would feel qualified for in coaching would be like a shooting coach. That's it. Everything else I'd have like the imposter syndrome lingering over me at all times. But I feel very good about being able to teach you how to shoot a basketball. So I know this because there have been women I've dated that have never touched a basketball in their lives, and I've taught them how to. They become decent free throw shooters. So that's my resume right now. Is just like mostly women, like 3 women in my life through the years that were like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Just keep your elbow in. Now we're gonna put it on the fingertips, and we're gonna follow through." And I turned them into decent free throw shooters for like 2 weeks, and then they broke up with me because
they got all they needed.
That was my idea of romance. Was like, let's go to the park and put up shots. And they were like, why would we do this?
Let's go to practice.
They got all they needed. Yeah. You got any more? One or two more?
Is that it?
Do one more.
One's from Danny. He said, how many points could Mark score in a Patriot League game given he plays all 40 minutes?
Right now or at my peak? Right now, I'm old, man. I'm not getting any younger. I keep crossing my fingers that I will be younger. It's not happening. At my peak, I could give you. So say the question again. This isn't my average. This is just like,
if given you play 40 minutes, how many points could Mark score in a Patriot League game?
But the thing about questions like this is there's so many factors that you have to weigh. Am I the focal point of the offense? Are we going down the floor every time like I'm the guy? I'm JJ Redick on Duke, and everyone's just setting screens for me, and I'm carrying the offense. Or am I a guy that's just like in the mix with everyone else, and I'm only supposed to shoot when I'm open and all that?
I think that's a you question.
That's a me question. Are you? I don't want the focal point of the offense. That's not my game. I get double digits for sure. Yeah, if I'm playing 40 minutes, dude, I'm hitting. Yeah, if I have a green light to shoot when I feel like it, which would probably be, I'd probably get up like 15 shots, I'd say. And yeah, I'd hit 4 or 5. I'd hit 4 or 5.
That's pretty good.
Couple of those are threes. Yeah, I feel good about that. I'd feel pretty good about that. But yeah, right now, back in the day, I would say 20 is. I would set the over under at like 16.5 probably.
That's 16 and a half.
Yeah. 40 minutes of like me trying to, like I'm out there trying to score. I'm out there trying to score, and you're giving me a green light. Yeah, and that's not to shit on the Patriot League. Patriot League's a good league, but I got more game than people realize.
Yeah, be confident in yourself.
There were days of practice at Ohio State where I would, and I understand how stupid that sounds, but there were days where I would light it up. So there is a world where I get hot and I would just be fucking pouring and everything. 16.5 is pretty high. 13.5. We'll say
believe in yourself.
13.5, and I'm hitting the over. Today though, I'm setting the line at 3.5. I'll make 1 3. Do I score another point? It's anyone's guess. I will definitely make 1 3, but who the hell knows what else I do out there. All right, that's it. That's fun. Keep sending tweet at us and
we'll put that out a couple times this summer, I'm sure.
Yeah. IG and all that other sort of thing. Any shout outs before we go, teacher?
Yeah, I wanted to shout out I believe the bar is called Rocco's in Omaha. I don't know if you've seen this as you've been watching the College World
Jello
Series
shots?
coverage. Yes. So College World Series is fully underway. A couple teams have been eliminated. Stanford, Virginia, like I mentioned, they blew a 2-run lead by letting a pitcher die on the mound, and then they brought their quarterback in as the closer, and he blew the save immediately. Just classic Virginia stuff. But there's a bar, Rocco's, that every year they do a Jello shot challenge. So if you walk in there and you buy a $5 Jello shot, you tell them what school you're supporting, and they tally that, and they have like a running total. LSU, so we're 4 days into the College World Series, 5 days in. LSU has not only taken the lead on this leaderboard, they've set the all-time record.
Already, with 5 days left?
They, through 5 days, this is as of a couple hours ago, have bought and consumed 21,435 Jello shots.
Holy shit, dude.
Second place on this leaderboard is Wake Forest with 5,500. So they're 4 times second place. This is not even mostly, but partially due to Todd Graves, the founder of Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, coming in and setting the single purchase record for Jello shots at Rocco's in Omaha with 6,000 Jello shots purchased at one time.
LSU is a different breed, man.
Yes.
They're different. They're a different breed of people out down there, man. It is, that's awesome.
Todd Graves,
that's fantastic.
We've worked with him a couple times. I've gotten to meet him. He's like the nicest guy ever. Just unfathomably wealthy, I'd imagine, because they don't franchise their restaurants, so he owns every single Raising Cane's in the country. This is exactly the type of thing that I would do if I had this type of wealth. It's like, let me just go to like fun ass things and just be a king.
And isn't Stanford aren't Stanford and Virginia very low on that list of Jello shots?
Virginia and now they're 500, and they're both
they're both out. It makes you think, TJ. And LSU still in it. Usually,
Arkansas dominates this list when they're involved. But because they're a very big baseball school, but they're not in this year, so it's LSU clear for the taking.
Well, it's always nice when you have stereotypes of fan bases, and then
they live up to
they live up to it. Both for like Stanford and LSU. You know what I mean? Like the and Virginia. You like all of them are.
Yeah,
it's exactly what you think. Yeah.
I've long said that if I were like a 5-star football recruit and I had like a choice of anywhere in the country to go to school, LSU would have to be in like the top. Make my final graphic at least. It just seems like the most fun place in the world.
I wanted to be a hater because people love LSU so much. The night games in Death Valley and just the way people talk about it. It's just kind of like, all right, we get it. It can't be that good, whatever. And then I went to my first night game in Death Valley and I was like, yeah, I got nothing. I got nothing. This is incredible. I got nothing to say. The hater in me is silent. I have to just sit here and say that this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was just a random ass Auburn LSU game where both teams stunk.
Yeah.
It was incredible atmosphere. I want to shout out Steven Izzo, walk on at Michigan State, who reached out to me and told he listens to the show and reached out to me because he heard us talking about how someone should try to become the first number 69 in college basketball.
Oh,
he said that he put in his request. He put in a formal request, and I might be telling tales out of school here. I don't know if I was authorized to share this with the general public.
Breaking news.
Anyway. Breaking news. He told me that he put in the request to be number 69 for the Michigan State Spartans next year. His request was denied, TJ. Denied.
Now,
and to him, I said, I thought this was America. What happened to freedom of speech? Why are you trying to be silenced? Why can't? It's disgusting.
Yeah.
I said, I told, you know what I told? I said, you need to have your dad talk to the coach. And
I was about to ask, have
your dad talk to the coach and let him.
That's awesome.
No, but he tried. He wanted it to be known that he gave it a swing.
I appreciate that.
That's why we love him. That's why
somebody
we love him.
will do it. Somebody will do it, and then they will be revered through history as the first.
My last thing, I just need to give me a Zelda Tears of the Kingdom update. Just give me
my brain is just very overloaded every time I try and play it with what I'm supposed to be doing and what I can be doing. I find that like when I played through like Grand Theft Auto for the first time, I was like, well, I could just like kind of fuck around and like punch this civilian in the face over and over again for 10 or like run them, like do whatever. But I know that there is a task on hand that I'm supposed to be accomplishing. I find that in this game with like the building aspect where I'm kind of just putting stuff on top of stuff to see if it does something, and when it doesn't do anything, I'm like, yeah, you're right, I probably should just keep moving on. I've put in God knows how many hours, and I feel like I've done like 3 missions, right? You know, and I've done all right, well, maybe this isn't working like I planned. I was hoping it would just become instant, like it was just very natural to you.
and then you would just have a lot of tips and tricks.
I need to focus. I know I need to help you out. I need to focus on my studies.
Instead, I've pulled you down into the pit of despair with me, where you're just overwhelmed at all times of all the things you can do. All right, that's the show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing, watching on YouTube. Thanks for all of you that are like I said earlier, sticking around, man. Because we're to be fully transparent, I'm just kind of in this like waiting for Chicago mode so I can turn the show into what I want it to be. And but in the meantime, we're gonna have some fun, and I appreciate everyone sticking around and listening and following along. Also Thursday, Sam Vecini. Sam will be on the show Thursday. We'll do the NBA draft preview then, and we had a really fun conversation, long conversation, honestly, just talking about all sorts of guys. And there's nobody better in the business than him, and can't wait to release that show. So see you guys Thursday.